Well, hello and good evening, everybody. It's a happy Tuesday to us all. It's so happy that we get ourselves a new book tonight. That's right. We will be starting into The Sentinel Project by A. Blackwood. I know you're excited. I know you want to be here, because who wouldn't want to be here with us for this exciting night? So, last time around, we finished Gifted by D.W. Lewis. All of the streams from that can be found, all the recorded chapters can be found on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. So, if you missed any, if you want to check it out, if you want to support author D.W. Lewis, it's easy to do so. You don't even have to try really hard. I make it simple for you. All you have to do is stop out, check out the YouTube channel. I have links to all of his things there. You can go to Amazon.com. You can pick up his book there. You can just listen in on the channel and check it out. You can do whatever works for you to make sure that you are helping to support that wonderful author as we await our next book to eventually come out. Don't know when that'll be, but until then, hey, we'll take it. And again, tonight we'll start into The Sentinel Project by Soren K. Blackwood, also available on Amazon for your listening pleasure, your reading pleasure, your whatever it may be pleasure. Because, oh yeah, why wouldn't you want to have it there for you? Remember, I do record all of these, so all of the from the Sentinel Project will also be available on the YouTube channel after the stream tonight. I will get them uploaded there so that way you can check that out as well. But now, let's find out what this book is all about, shall we? Sit back, relax, and prepare to enjoy as we dive into this latest book in our live reading series. And grab yourself a cup of tea, chat with each other to your heart's content. Remember, the best place to chat is going to be on the YouTube channel, but hey, I am also on X, I am on Kick, I am on Twitch. So, wherever you happen to be, I will be happy to engage between chapters, because that's the way it works for me. When I record, it has to be between chapters. Because if not, how would it work? So now, let's go ahead and get started with The Echo in the Blood. The only light in the university genetics lab at 2:17 a.m. came from the glow of Dr. Ben Carter's primary monitor, painting his face in shifting lines of code. The rest of the building was a ghost, asleep under a steady, silent curtain of early summer rain that slicked the empty campus roads to black mirrors. The air in the lab was thick with the scent of stale coffee and the low, constant hum of server fans, a sound that had become the baseline of Ben's life for the past 3 years. He ran a hand through his already disheveled hair, the fatigue a physical weight on his shoulders. For the thousandth time, he questioned the wisdom of pouring his life, his savings, and his academic reputation into a theory his colleagues openly mocked as genetic astrology. Ancestral cognitive resonance. The idea that memory, true memory of an imprint on the so called junk DNA of a bloodline. He was about to call it a night when the calm, synthesized voice of his AI filled the silence. Ben, Keats said, its tone as placid as a still lake. A recursive pattern in sample 7 gamma has just resolved. The probability of this sequence occurring naturally is statistically 0. I believe you need to see this. Adrenaline, cold and sharp, cut through Ben's exhaustion. He sat bolt upright, the worn fabric of his chair groaning in protest. On screen, Keats. Isolate the marker. A section of the double helix display zoomed into focus. For a moment, it looked like any other strand of DNA, the familiar, elegant chaos of life. Then, Keats overlaid its analysis. A segment of the code lit up, and the chaos within it resolved into something else entirely. It was perfect. It was structured. It contained nested clauses and a syntax so clean it looked less like biology and more like a piece of high level programming. It was impossibly, terrifyingly deliberate. Run it again, Ben whispered, hands flying across the keyboard. Check for data corruption. Check for anything. I have, Ben, Keats replied. 13 times. The result is stable. Ben leaned back slowly, the world narrowing to the glowing alien message embedded in his blood. It was here. The ghost in the machine. The whisper he'd been chasing his entire career. A message in a bottle sent from a shore he couldn't imagine. And as the truth of what he was looking at finally washed over him, Ben Carter felt an emotion he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just the triumphant joy of vindication. It was primordial, world-altering fear. Well, that was a quick first chapter, but that's okay. We continue on. Chapter 2. The Watcher. The air in the subterranean command center at Echo Ridge, Virginia was cold, sterile, and silent save for the whisper of recycled air. Major Vanguard ran a gloved finger along the edge of the object on the central analysis table. It was a foot-long rod of a seamless, non-reflective black material that felt unnaturally dense. To the uninitiated, it looked like a piece of modern sculpture. Vanguard knew it was a fossil from a future that had died millennia ago. Status on the core resonance, Lieutenant? Vanguard asked without looking up. Still dormant, sir, a voice replied from the perimeter of the darkened room. The internal lattice shows 0 energy transfer. It's as dead as it was when we pulled the gate. Vanguard's jaw tightened. For 50 years, his predecessors, and now he, had been the keepers of the ultimate secret. The Roswell event was a misdirection. The real prize hadn't crashed in the New Mexico desert. It had been found, frozen and perfectly preserved in the Antarctic ice. A different ship, a different crew, and a toolkit of impossible, inert artifacts. They possessed the instruments of the gods, but they had forgotten how to make them sing. He stared at the rod on the table, what the fragmented logs called a frequency calibrator, a tool that could supposedly paint a line of decoherence onto solid matter, a key without a keyhole. A soft, insistent chime broke the silence. Sir, the lieutenant said, his voice suddenly sharp with adrenaline. We have a ping. A microburst of quantum trace resonance. Extremely faint, but it's there. Vanguard turned from the artifact, his movements economical and precise. He strode to the main holographic display, which showed a Earth. A single pulsing red dot appeared over North America. Magnify. Source location. The globe zoomed in. A university campus, a specific building, a specific lab. Cross reference with Project Chimera, Vanguard commanded. A file appeared in the air next to the map. File, but one Vanguard knew well. It contained newspaper clippings, grant rejections, and transcripts. The subject? Dr. Benjamin Carter. Genetic astrology. Vanguard read the mocking headline aloud, a thin, humorless smile touching his lips. He looked at the live data stream from Ben's lab. The resonance was gone as quickly as it had appeared. A ghost in the data. But it had been there. A single, pure note in a world of static. He doesn't have an artifact, the lieutenant mused. He can't. We have the only known inventory. No, Vanguard said, his eyes fixed on Ben Carter's photo. He doesn't have the hardware. He has the wetware. He tapped the file. His theory. Ancestral cognitive resonance. He's been looking for a ghost in the blood. He just found it. Vanguard felt a cold thrill, the feeling of a hunter who has waited patiently for his quarry to finally break cover. The Antarctic artifacts were a locked door. Carter was the key. His unique genetic lineage, a lineage Vanguard had been tracking for years, had just been activated. The dormant bloodline had awoken. The Sentinel network is a closed system, Lieutenant, Vanguard said, thinking aloud. It requires a key and an operator. The hardware we possess is the key. He gestured to the rod. But Carter is a living operator. He's found a back door. The way to ring the bell, even if he doesn't know what the bell is for. He turned to his subordinate, his eyes like chips of ice. Put a flag on Dr. Carter. Full satellite and communication surveillance. I want to know everyone he speaks to, everything he does. Some corporation, some private interest with deep pockets will get to him first. They always do. They do, sir? We let them, Vanguard said, his gaze returning to the pulsing red dot on the map. Let them fund his research. Let them lead him to the prize. Let them do all the heavy lifting. He walked back to the table and picked up the inert calibrator, feeling its impossible weight. He was not a scientist seeking truth. He was a soldier seeking to reclaim a lost inheritance. This power was not meant for debate in academic halls or for sale in corporate boardrooms. It was a weapon, a tool of absolute order, and it was his birthright to wield it. Let the archaeologists dig, he whispered to the empty room. We'll be there to collect the artifact when they're done. 2 chapters down, time for the next chapter. Chapter 3. Mentor and Friend. Ben couldn't sleep. And how could he? Through the blinds of his office window, morning sunlight cut sharp streaks across the room, illuminating a space that was both chaotic and perfectly organized. Books on quantum mechanics leaned precariously against ancient texts on sacred geometry. A long DNA sequencing printout was pinned to a corkboard, its elegant helix running alongside a diagram of the flower of life and glossy photos of Masaru Emoto's water crystals. A well-worn copy of the Dhammapada propped up his monitor, a small altar of wisdom rising his screen to a more comfortable height. He paced the small space, a tremor of pure adrenaline running through him that no amount of caffeine could replicate. Finally, unable to contain the discovery a moment longer, He placed the video call. After a few rings, the face of Dr. Alistair Finch appeared on the screen, his expression groggy but kind. Ben? Alistair began, his voice raspy with sleep. It's barely dawn. Is everything all right? Alistair, I found it, Ben said, his own voice breathless, electric. He gestured wildly at the screen Alistair couldn't see. A marker, traveling through time, vibrating with the echoes of the past. It's real. Dr. Emoto's work proved that sound, that intention, can structure water crystals. Our bodies are 70% water, Alistair. Can you imagine what a structured, billion base pair data packet could do to a genome over 50,000 years? This isn't just biology, it's the string theory of genetics. It's information, it's vibration, it's everything. Alistair was silent for a long moment. He sighed, a deep, weary sound, and the kindness in his eyes was replaced with a profound concern. Ben, listen to yourself, he said softly. The law of attraction, entanglement. We've discussed these theories for years. But now you're bringing water crystals into it as proof? He shook his head slowly. Don't you think you've damaged your professional career enough? This is exactly why the review board flagged your grant proposal. They said it was undisciplined. He leaned closer to his camera, his voice firm but pained. Yes, these theories may one day work hand in hand, like parts of a machine, but you can't just declare them all the same part. This synaptic pattern of yours is a ghost in the data, an anomaly. You're chasing shadows because you have a brilliant, beautiful mind that wants to believe in a grand unified theory. But son, science doesn't work that way. Please, go home. Get some sleep before you publish this and destroy what's left of your career. A prophet without honor. The video call with Alistair ended, leaving Ben standing in the heavy silence of his office. His mentor's words, a ghost in the data, chasing shadows, echoed in the space where his elation had been only moments before. The dismissal from the one man who he valued was a physical knocking the air from his lungs. For a moment, doubt, cold and venomous, coiled in his gut. But then he looked back at the screen, at the impossible, elegant syntax Keats had isolated. It was not a shadow. It was not a ghost. It was real. Alistair is just being cautious, Ben told himself, a new defiant fire hardening his resolve. He's part of the old guard. They're afraid of anything that challenges the established dogma. Fine. If the old guard wouldn't listen, he would bypass them entirely. He would go straight to the source, to the most prestigious, peer reviewed publication in the field, the Journal of Theoretical Genomics. For the next 48 hours, Ben worked in a caffeine fueled frenzy. He didn't just write a paper, he crafted a bombshell. He laid out the data with meticulous precision, detailing Keats's analytical models, the statistical improbability of the sequence, and the flawless internal logic of the code itself. He knew it was revolutionary. He knew it was undeniable. He attached the data packet, a digital message in a bottle containing the secret of human history, and hit send. He slept for 14 hours, a profound and weary slumber that enveloped him completely, filled with dreams of spiraling light. The light twisted and danced in vibrant hues, painting vivid patterns across the canvas of his mind. Each swirl and shimmer in his dreams seemed to pulse with energy and life, creating an ethereal tapestry that lulled him deeper into restful oblivion. He woke up with a feeling of victorious excitement. He had accomplished it. He had made the impact that would resonate globally. The reply came 3 days later. It was not the thoughtful, peer reviewed analysis he expected. It was a single, brutal paragraph from the journal's senior editor, Dr. Evelyn Reed. Dr. Carter, the email began, the words dripping with academic condescension. While we appreciate your enthusiasm, the editorial board must reject your submission. Your methodology is unorthodox. Your conclusions are speculative to the point of fantasy, and you seem to have mistaken a data artifact for a cosmic message. Frankly, this reads less like a scientific paper and more like the first chapter of a science fiction novel. We suggest you recalibrate your analytical models before submitting any further work for serious consideration. The final sentence was a stiletto to the heart. P.S. I've taken the liberty of forwarding this to Dean Albright at your university, as I am concerned this represents a significant deviation from your department's usual standards of empirical rigor. An hour later, the anticipated summons arrived, casting a ripple of tension through the room. Dean Albright's office was on the top floor, a space of polished wood and quiet power that always made Ben feel like a student being called to the principal's office. The dean, a man whose face seemed permanently fixed in an expression of weary disappointment, gestured to a chair without looking up from the email on his screen. Benjamin, he said, his voice dangerously soft. Dr. Reed from the Journal is an old colleague. She is also on the grant committee for the National Science Foundation, the same foundation that provides this university with $12 million in annual funding. He finally looked up, his eyes cold. For 3 years, I have defended your unorthodox research. I have vouched for you, and you repay that faith by making this department and this university a laughing stock. Dean, if you would just look at the data, Ben began, but Albright cut him off with a sharp wave of his hand. I have looked at the data. I have also looked at the quarterly budget. Effective immediately. Your lab access is suspended pending a full review of your research protocols. Your funding is frozen. You are on administrative leave, Ben. Go home. Get some rest. Think about your future. The words were a death sentence. He was locked out, cut off from Keats, cut off from his life's work. Ben walked back to his lab in a daze. A campus security guard was already there, a young man with an apologetic look on his face, holding a cardboard box. Sorry, Dr. Carter. Dean's orders. Numbly, Ben began to pack his personal effects. The worn copy of Dhammapada, the photos of water crystals, the books on quantum mechanics. He was dismantling his own life. He paused, looking at the primary monitor where the elegant, impossible double helix was still displayed. It was the most important discovery in the history of the world, and he was being punished for it. He slumped into his chair, the weight of it all finally crashing down on him. He wasn't just a prophet without honor. He was a prophet who had been silenced, discredited, and cast out. He was alone, broke, and defeated. He stared at the glowing screen, the last and only witness to his truth, and for the first time in his career, Dr. Ben Carter felt the crushing, absolute despair of a man who had lost everything. That's when the knock came at his door. Oh no. Are you saying that the scientific community is not always the greatest about accepting things that they don't understand? Say it isn't so. All right, I know it isn't so because we are ready for Chapter 4, Geodynamics. The knock on the door was gentle, yet in the oppressive quiet of the lab, it echoed like a gunshot. Ben remained still, almost certain he'd imagined it. The knock resounded once more, this time with greater urgency. He pushed himself up from the chair, his body feeling heavy, old. He shuffled to the door and opened it a crack. A nervous looking student assistant from the main office stood there. Dr. Carter, sorry to bother you, but there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. Before Ben could respond, a figure moved with unnerving speed, eclipsing the young assistant. A woman, tall and dressed head to toe in a sharply tailored black suit that seemed to absorb the light, stood in his doorway. She had severe, intelligent features and dark hair pulled back in a tight, professional knot. Her eyes, the color of dark smoke, swept over his chaotic office, taking in every detail in a single, sweeping glance that missed nothing. She stepped inside, extending a hand. Her grip was firm and cool. Dr. Benjamin Carter, she said, her voice a low, precise alto. It wasn't a question. My name is Kalen Vance. I'm the director of special acquisitions for geodynamics. She hesitated for a moment, her eyes fixing on the illuminated monitor behind Ben, where the improbable helix was still visible. A flash of something, perhaps recognition or confirmation, shimmered in her eyes. Your work has come to our attention, she continued, her voice dropping slightly. We have something we think you'll want to see. The next few hours were a disorienting blur. One moment, Ben was standing in the ruins of his academic career. The next, he was strapped into a plush leather seat inside a Gulfstream jet so new it still smelled of binder resin and expensive upholstery. There were no other passengers, just him and Kaylin Vance, who sat opposite him, her posture impeccably straight, her attention fixed on a tablet. She slid the device over the smooth wooden table toward him. A non disclosure agreement, she explained. Just standard protocol. Ben picked it up. The language was a dense forest of legal jargon, indemnification clauses, perpetual confidentiality, penalties that spoke in commas and zeros. It told him everything and nothing. He looked up, his confusion plain on his face. Kalen offered a disarming smile that didn't quite reach her smoky eyes. Everything will be clear once we reach our destination, Doctor. I promise. Hesitantly, Ben picked up the offered pen, a heavy, expensive instrument that felt alien in his hand. Before signing away a future he didn't understand, his mind retreated to the one solid thing in his universe, the anomaly. He saw it again in his mind's eye, that impossible segment of code Keats had isolated. That was real. The rest of this, the jet, the woman, the NDA, was just a dream. He signed his name, the pen scratching softly in the jet's near total silence. The moment it was done, a wave of exhaustion he hadn't realized he was holding back washed over him. He leaned his head against the cool leather of the seat and drifted into a much needed, dreamless sleep. He was woken by a gentle shake. The jet's engines were silent. Through the window he saw not a runway, but a vast, sun-bleached expanse of desert. Kalen was standing over him. You're finally awake, she said, a hint of genuine surprise in her voice. I left you to sleep. I thought you might need it. She gestured toward the door. They're ready for us. Ben stood, feeling the stiffness in his joints, as if he were waking from a long slumber, failing to reconnect with reality. He followed creaking metal steps and onto the stark desert where the dry, superheated air slammed against him like a physical blow, sucking the moisture from his skin. The site buzzed with a hive of controlled, purposeful activity. Massive canvas tents, their fabric taut and sun-bleached, were stretched over intricate scaffolding, casting fleeting shadows on the parched earth. Generators thrummed with a steady, deep resonance, their sound vibrating through the air, while portable light stands cast harsh, angular shadows under the relentless midday sun. People in dusty work gear moved with precision and intent, their clothes coated in a fine layer of sand, as they carried complex sensor arrays and sophisticated measuring equipment. The scene felt less like an archaeological dig, with its air of discovery and history, and more like a clandestine military operation, shrouded in secrecy and purpose. The oppressive fatigue that had plagued Ben for days evaporated, replaced by a surge of pure, unadulterated curiosity. Kalen led him toward the largest tent, a simple canopy shading a massive square hole dug into the desert floor. A heavy duty ladder descended into the darkness of a deep shaft. A geodynamics mining crew found this 2 weeks ago, Kalen explained, her voice low. They were surveying for uranium deposits. They found something infinitely more valuable and infinitely more mysterious. She turned to him, her gaze direct. We called you because of your unique theories, Doctor. We think you might be the only person who can help us understand what we're looking at. What is it? Ben asked, his voice now a strained whisper. Kalen smiled again, a true enigmatic smile this time. Why don't you climb down and see for yourself? The suspense was unbearable. He moved hastily to the ladder, the metal rungs hot to the touch. As he descended, the desert sun vanished, replaced by a growing darkness. The air grew cooler, carrying a strange metallic scent. At the bottom, a battery of powerful floodlights illuminated the scene, and Ben's breath caught in his throat. It was a machine, or part of one, half buried in the ancient rock like an enigmatic relic from another world. Its surface was a seamless, non reflective black, absorbing all light and casting no reflections, with a shape composed of curves and angles that felt profoundly alien, like a puzzle piece with an unfathomable cosmos. He reached out a trembling hand, the anticipation and fear coursing through his veins, and laid it flat against the surface. In the stuffy heat of the underground shaft, the object was impossibly, unnaturally cold, sending a shiver to the tips. What have you found out so far? Ben asked, always carrying a mix of awe and urgency, as he turned to a geologist examining a sample nearby. The man looked up, his eyes wide with astonishment and a hint of disbelief. Nothing that makes sense, he said, his voice tinged with wonder. The material composition doesn't match anything on the periodic table. It's not from this planet, Doctor. As Ben watched, a team of workers meticulously brushed away sediment from a newly exposed section, their movements as delicate and precise as a surgeon's as they unveiled more of the mystery. This wasn't just an object, it was a vessel, a ship. And as the full staggering implication of the discovery settled upon him, A revelation as vast as the universe itself. Only one thought managed to form in his mind, echoing like a mantra. Keats must see this, Ben thought, the weight of the cosmos pressing upon his shoulders. So the chapter pages here are all in white, so if you see that brightness come up on the screen, it means that a new chapter is coming up because with the teleprompter, you know, it obviously is it's picking up some of the white that goes through, which is why you see it all white. Hello, everyone. Welcome on in. Glad to have you guys here with me tonight. We are reading The Sentinel Project by Soren K. Blackwood. New book started it tonight. So all of the chapters from tonight will be posted a little bit later this evening on my YouTube channel. So if you've missed anything, youtube.com/@SirArminius, and you can catch all of the previous things that you may have missed. And now let's dive into our next chapter. Chapter 5, Session 1, Lyra's World. Ben stood before the enigmatic alien artifact, its surface radiating an unnatural chill that lingered on his fingertips like a ghostly touch. The towering structure loomed above him, casting an eerie shadow that seemed to whisper secrets of the cosmos. Turning away from the base of the towering shaft, Ben lifted his gaze to meet Kalen's eyes, who was watching him intently from the edge above, silhouetted against the dim light filtering through the cavern. I can't proceed any further without my primary tool, Ben declared, his voice resonating slightly within the enclosed, echoing space. It's a specialized AI I designed, named Keats. Every analytical model, the entirety of my research framework, is contained within it. Without Keats, I'm nothing more than a geologist with a wild theory and no means to substantiate it. Kalen considered this for a moment, her expression unreadable. Your university lab? And my home server, Ben confirmed. It's a distributed network. I need secure, real time access. She gave a curt nod. It will be arranged. The next few hours passed in a haze of anxious waiting. He drifted around the command tent, inspecting the advanced equipment laid out on sturdy, foldable plastic tables. Though he was a guest, he couldn't shake the feeling of being a captive. Eventually, a technician appeared, carrying a robust Pelican case. When opened, it revealed a laptop, a satellite uplink, and a pair of noise-canceling earbuds. We've set up a direct encrypted connection to your network, Dr. Carter, the technician informed him before leaving. Ben powered up the laptop, a smile touching his lips for the first time since he'd arrived. I have something for you, Keats, he said softly as the familiar interface bloomed to life. I'm taking you on a road trip. Keats's voice took on an edge Ben had never heard before. It wasn't calm, it was eager. This connection defies all known physics, Ben. It's instantaneous and untraceable, like a ghost within the system. Where are we? What are you planning to show me? You will love this, Ben answered, a spark of his old burning. He began, his fingers flying. Keats, I want you to prime yourself. Run every analysis program we have. Metallurgy, vibrational resonance, quantum field synthesis. Load all related databases. While the AI worked, Kalen entered the tent. Is your assistant getting settled? She asked, pulling up a chair. Keats is eager, Ben said, and confused. A familiar feeling around here, Kalen admitted. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me, Doctor, in your eclectic research, what do you know about the law of attraction? Ben was taken aback by the sudden shift. I've brushed on it. I admit I could never get past the magical part. I'm a scientist. I need mechanisms, formulas. And the entanglement theory? She countered smoothly. Two particles bound across the universe, mirroring each other instantly. Is that not magic? Pure, unadulterated magic, operating outside our known laws? For now, Ben replied, feeling a strange sense of deja vu. Sooner or later, we'll find the math behind it. Kalen held his gaze with unwavering intensity. But what if some things can't be neatly boxed into the rigid framework of Newtonian rules? What if the quantum realm, the mysterious realm of pure potential, isn't driven by measurement and precision, but by intention and will? Imagine that the law of attraction isn't some mystical force, but rather the fine tuning of your own quantum field, creating the precise conditions necessary to manifest your deepest desires. It's like setting the stage for a grand performance, a delicate and intricate business, I'd imagine. Ben was rendered utterly speechless. Her words perfectly mirrored the thoughts he'd only dared to entertain in the secluded corners of his mind. Just as he was about to respond, a soft chime resonated through his earpiece. Ben, came Keats's voice, calm but electrifying. All systems are primed. I am ready. Ben glanced at Kalen and said, We're set. A thrill shot through Ben. He grabbed the laptop and followed Kalen back to the dig site, back down the ladder into the cool, dark air. He set up the laptop on a sturdy wooden box, connecting it to the sensor array already attached to the alien hull. He took a deep breath. Keats, he said, his voice carrying a tremor of both reverence and challenge. Meet the ghost. He fed the live sensor data into the system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the laptop's monitor flickered violently. The clean lines of Keats's diagnostic interface dissolved into a chaotic cascade of symbols Ben had never seen. Part hieroglyph, part circuit diagram. Ben, the data stream is incoherent. Keats's voice crackled in his earpiece, strained and distorted. The architecture is alien. I can't parse it. Receiving a massive, uncontrolled discharge. The voice cut out, replaced by a wave of pure static. A low hum began to vibrate up from the desert floor, emanated not from the laptop, but from the hull of the ship itself. It was a deep, resonant frequency that Ben felt in his bones, a sound that seemed to pressurize the very air in the shaft. He felt a wave of dizziness, a profound weakness washing over him as if his very energy was being siphoned away to power the connection. He sank down onto the wooden box, his head spinning, a metallic taste filling his mouth. Ben? Keelan took a step forward, her professional calm finally cracking, her face etched with alarm. Report. What's happening? Ben tried to answer, but his tongue felt thick and slow. The hum intensified, and a series of fragmented images, raw and unsorted, flooded his mind's eye. A star chart of an unfamiliar galaxy, the face of a woman with eyes like his own, a schematic of the ship's drive core, a flash of blinding white light. It was a storm of data without context, the last fragmented, the last corrupted fragments of a dying machine's memory. He was drowning in the static of a forgotten history. He clutched his head, a cry of pain escaping his lips. The sensory overload was too much. His consciousness, the very anchor of his identity, began to fray. Suddenly, as if the ancient machine had finally tuned into a channel amidst the static, the chaos subsided. The whirlwind of images settled into a single, clear sequence. The pressure in his head disappeared. The noise from the dig site, Kalen's urgent cries, and the sensation of the desert air on his skin all faded away. The sterile, metallic scent of the shaft was replaced by the smell of wood smoke and damp earth. The low hum of the artifact was swapped with the wind's howl over a desolate tundra. He stumbled forward, trying to steady himself, and glanced down at his hands. They were not his. They were weathered and calloused, clutching a crude spear. Across a flickering fire, the eyes of a tribal chieftain, narrowed with suspicion, glared at him. At her. At Lyra. Dun dun dun. Chapter 6. Lyra's Story. The Public Rebuke. The world solidifies. Ben is no longer Ben. He is Lyra, standing before the great fire in the center of the village, the warmth of the flames failing to ward off the chill of 100 judging eyes. The tribe is gathered, their faces painted in firelight and shadow. He feels the rough wool of Lyra's tunic against his skin, the weight of shame pressing down. Lyra! The voice of Matic, the tribe's chieftain and high priest, booms across the clearing, silencing the evening chatter. He is a mountain of a man, his face a mask of stern authority. You have had a dream, Matic continues, his voice dripping with condescension. Why don't you share this grand vision of yours with the rest of the clan? Lyra sinks into herself. Ben can feel her heart hammering against her ribs. It was just a dream I shared with you in confidence. Nothing more, she says, her voice small. I thought it might hold meaning, but your explanation has eased my curiosity. It is a lie, and the effort of it tastes like ash. She is thankful she didn't confess that it was a reoccurring dream, a nightly pilgrimage to a place she'd never been. Medic takes a step forward, his shadow engulfing her. The law is all we have, he declares, his voice a sermon. It has kept us safe for 1,000 lifetimes. Your dreams are not messages from the sky gods. They are born of pride and sickness. They are lies from the void that tempt us from the one true path. He raises his hands. This is a time for a forgiveness prayer. He opens the sacred text, a book of stiff, ancient hides called the Chanted Histories, and begins the familiar hypnotic chant. Tni ishat quantum resonans. The tribe joins in, their voices a low, powerful hum, a sound meant to heal a sickness they do not understand. They look at Lyra not with hate, but with pity. The black sheep, the lost soul. The home fires. The ceremony ends. Lyra flees to the sanctuary of her dwelling, a sturdy house of stone and timber. Inside, her husband, Kale, is mending a hunting spear. He is a kind, steady man, his presence a balm on her raw nerves. He shamed you again, Kale says softly, not looking up from his work. He sets the spear aside and pulls her into his arms. Lyra, my love, why do you provoke him? The law keeps us safe. The rituals give us structure. Why look for trouble where there is none? Because it doesn't feel right, she whispers into his chest. The chants, the dreams, something is missing. Or perhaps something is there that comes a sharp voice from the corner. Her son, Rorik, a lean and restless 18-year-old, looks up from the bow he is stringing. What did you see in your dream, mother? What is Maddox so afraid of you finding? Gale shoots his son a warning glance. Rorik, that is enough. No, Rorik presses, his eyes alight with a fire Lyra recognizes. Maddox fears what he can control. You should find out more. Lyra looks from her husband, the anchor who offers safety, to her son, the spark who offers adventure. She feels torn between two worlds. The dreams felt so real, so familiar, stirring a sense of purpose and a deep, aching longing that she couldn't explain. They weren't just dreams, they were pieces of a puzzle, and her soul could not rest until she found the missing pieces. The ritual of futility. A commotion from the village path, shouts and hurried footsteps drew Lyra from her dwelling. A man from a neighboring family saw her and called out, his face etched with panic. Lyra, it's Nephrin. She's been sick 4 days, but the fever is taking her. We're bringing her to Maddox. Nephrin, the quiet, kind girl who lived 2 doors down. The girl whom Lyra had noticed always found a reason to be nearby when Rorik was practicing with his bow. I'm coming with you, Lyra said, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. She rushed back inside to grab a shawl. Nephron is worse, she told Rorik. They're, they've taken her to the temple. Rorik's face paled, and without a word, he followed her out the door. They arrived at the temple, a low circular stone structure open to the sky. The air inside was thick with the smell of burning sage and fear. Nephron lay on a ceremonial pallet, her small body trembling, her breath coming in shallow, rapid bursts. Her parents stood over her, their faces masks of anguish. Sweetie, we are here, her mother whispered, stroking her daughter's sweat-damped forehead. The sky people will see you. They will heal you. Everything will be all right. Maddox entered, his presence silencing the room. Without preamble, he began the chants from the Book of Chanted Histories, his voice a low rumble that seemed to shake the very stones. He performed the rite of initiation, his arms outstretched to invoke the power of the unseen. He then turned to the chapter on healing, his chants growing louder, more fervent. Nephron's parents closed their eyes, clutching each other's hands, their lips moving in silent, desperate prayer. But as the hours passed, a heavy stillness fell over the temple. The hope began to curdle. Nephron's condition did not improve. It worsened. A violent shiver racked her body and a low moan escaped her lips. The ritual was failing. The sky people were silent. It was more than Lyra could bear. This can't be the only way, she cried out, her voice raw with frustration and grief. The crowd turned to stare at her, shocked. There must be another way, a way we can heal ourselves, without begging spirits who never answer. They don't care. A wave of scandalized murmurs rippled through the temple. Blasphemy, someone whispered. She needs a corrective session, another hissed. Maddox raised his arms, his face a thundercloud. Silence, he boomed. The crowd obeyed. He fixed his gaze on Lyra, but his voice, when it came, was not angry. It was the smooth, dangerous voice of a politician. Lyra is not beyond redemption, he said to the crowd. She is grieving. It is normal to ask why the Sky People choose who to help and who to let go. But they are our creators. Their wisdom is beyond our understanding. To dwell on these questions is to let the void take over us. And there is no cure for the darkness of the soul. save for a return to the scriptures and strict adherence to the law of doing. His words were a dismissal and a warning, all in one. He had masterfully turned her pain into a spiritual sickness and reasserted his own authority. Shamed and furious, Lyra turned and fled the temple, leaving Rorik to stand vigil by Nephron's side, his young face a portrait of helpless rage. The ultimatum. Kale was summoned to the temple the following evening. He found Manik alone, stoking the central fire pit, the embers casting his already severe features into sharp relief. Kale, Manik began, his voice a deep, confidential rumble that seemed to resonate with the very air around them. We must speak of Lyra. I fear she has unwittingly become an agent of the void. This transformation has occurred without her knowledge, of course. Such is the insidious power of the void. It ensnares and mesmerizes the soul, wrapping it in a shadowy embrace before one even realizes the peril they are in. He turned from the fire, his eyes locking onto Kale's. You, however, are a pure soul, untouched by this darkness. This makes you special, and the Sky People will reward your devotion. They will ensure a bright future for you and Rorik. He will grow to be a strong man, have a fine wife, and have happy children. Maddox's voice was like honey. Would you not want the blessings of the Sky People for your family? Would you risk their anger? Kale's loyalty to his wife warred with his deep-seated faith. I want all of that for my family, he admitted, his voice strained. I try to give solace to Lyra during these episodes. I tell her not to seek explanations for that which is beyond us, but she persists. It only confuses her mind, but she has so much good in her. I know she will come around. That is exactly why I've brought you here, Maddox said, seizing the opening. We must work together to bring her back. I, too, see the good in her. If she can be returned to her senses, she will be a mighty force for our faith. He paused, letting the silence hang in the air. How can I help? Kale finally asked, the words tasting of defeat. Your faith must be a rock amidst her chaotic storms, Maddox instructed. Do not get into discussions with her about the scriptures. When she begins to question, change the subject. If you must, walk away. Do not feed the void with your attention. If logic does not work, then perhaps making her feel the chill of isolation will quiet her thoughts. He stepped closer. Urge others in the clan to do the same. Her friends, the women she works with at the looms. A slow, knowing smile touched Maddox's lips. She will find herself alone with her strange ideas, and loneliness is a powerful corrective. In the days that followed, Maddox's poison worked its way through the village. Conversations would halt when Lyra approached. Friends would suddenly become busy. She was treated not with anger, but with a wall of polite, pitying silence. She was no longer a member of the clan. She was a problem to be managed. The conspiracy. A few days later, the door to their dwelling was thrust open. Rorik stood there, his shoulders slumped, his young face carved with a grief that made him look old. She is gone, mother, he said, his voice hollow. What do you mean, gone? Lyra asked, her heart seizing. Nephron, Rorik choked out. Mother, Nephron is dead. The word lingered heavily in the air. Lyra ushered her son into the small sleeping nook, away from any eavesdropping neighbors. Rorik, she whispered urgently, her tone intense. You're a man now. There are things you need to know. The stone they took, it was the source of my dreams and visions. They vanished the moment Madoc took it. She clutched his arm. I have a bond with it, Rorik. I need your help to retrieve it, and I must go to the mound. I feel it in my bones. Everything begins and ends there. What? Rorik pulled away, his grief momentarily eclipsed by shock. Have you lost your mind? Can't you see what you've done to yourself? To us? Lyra sank onto a sleeping pallet, her strength failing her. Rorik, my son, my precious one, she pleaded, her voice cracking. I have nothing without my family. What I am doing for our family. You cared for Nephrin. I saw it in your eyes. Don't you want to find out if there's a better way? A way that could have saved her? If we go to the mound and find nothing, then we lose nothing. We can return to our lives and continue to beg these silent sky people for their help. But if we find something... She allowed the thought to linger silently, observing the turmoil in her son's eyes. There was a battle within him, the fear of Madoc clashing with his anger, his sorrow, and that familiar, youthful spark she recognized so well. Yes, mother, he finally said, his voice low but firm. I wish for a better way, one that can heal. He looked at her, his fear transmuting into resolve. But what is your plan, and how will you find anything? A cheeky, conspiratorial smile, the first true smile she'd had in days, touched Lyra's face. We start by stealing a holy relic, my son, she said, and then we go to the mound. The heist. The darkness before dawn was a thin gray wall. Lyra moved through it like a ghost, her bare feet making no sound on the packed earth of her dwelling as she slipped into Rorik's room. Rorik, wake up, she whispered, her hand gentle on his back. His eyes fluttered open. You're up early, he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. Yes. Lyra's voice was a low, conspiratorial hum. Did you forget about our adventure? She tried to make it sound like a game, a thrilling secret to appeal to the boy before the fearful man inside him could fully awaken. He sat up, shaking the sleep from his head. What's the plan, mother? She handed him a rough spun duffel bag. The morning sermon begins at sunrise. That is our window. Her voice took on the crisp authority of a military commander. Listen carefully. There will be a distraction during the sermon. I am going to see Alara now to ask for her help. Tell the others I am unwell and will not be joining the prayer this morning. Once the distraction happens, you will make your way to the relic chamber. Get the stone. Then meet me at the north farm, where the cornfield meets the stables. Understood? Rorik, now more awake, nodded. Yes, but what if something goes wrong? Is there a contingency? No, Lyra said, her voice sharp but not unkind. This is our only chance. There can be no suspicion. Breathe, relax, and wait for the right moment. You will know it when you see it. With a final reassuring squeeze of his shoulder, she slipped out into the pre-dawn mist. She found Alara's home shrouded in the same sleepy silence. Her knock was met with a groggy, Who is it? Alara, it's Lyra, please. The door opened a crack, revealing her friend's face, etched with confusion. Lyra, Is everything all right? I need a favor, my friend, Lyra said, her heart aching at the cautious distance that had grown between them since Maddox's campaign of isolation. Alara hesitated, then opened the door. Inside, Lyra laid out her outrageous request. I need you to faint during the morning sermon. Alara stared, aghast. Fake an illness? In the temple? Lyra, that is a sin. Please, Lyra implored, taking her friend's hands. You know me better than anyone. I would not ask this if it were not the most important thing I have ever done. The less you know, the safer you are. All I ask is this one act of faith in me. It will change everything for all of us. Lyra could see the turmoil in her friend's eyes, a battle between the fear of Maddox and the bonds of their lifelong friendship. Laura's gaze wavered, and after a long, unsteady breath, she gave a reluctant nod. I don't know what to make of this journey you're on, Lyra. Yet despite my doubts, I will do it for you, for the friendship we've shared. Hopeful but uncertain, Lyra made her way to the rendezvous point at the farm. She laid her scarf on the cool earth and watched as the sky slowly bled from black to violet to a brilliant burning orange. Her mind drifted through memories. Maddox performing Rorik's birth ceremony, Kale, patient and kind, teaching their son how to fletch an arrow, his voice earnest as he explained the law of doing. Obey it, and you will reap its rewards. A pang of guilt shot through her. What reward will this day bring? At the temple, Rorik was a bundle of nerves. He delivered his mother's excuse to Maddox, who offered a placid priestly blessing. She will be in our prayers, he'd said, and Rorik felt a flash of relief. The sermon began, the familiar drone of the chants filling the stone structure. Rorik fidgeted, his eyes darting toward the heavy curtain that covered the entrance to the relic chamber. Despair was beginning to envelop him when his eyes caught sight of Alara. Her face, drained of color and stark against the surrounding chaos, emerged into view. With unsteady movements, she rose to her feet, her legs quivering as if struggling to support her fragile frame. She mumbled a few incoherent words, swaying before collapsing to the ground. Chaos erupted. People rushed to her side. Rorik, for a terrifying moment, forgot the plan, his concern for Alara overriding everything. Make room! Maddox's voice cut through the panic. Give her air! Someone! Fetch water! The command jolted Rorik back to reality. This was it. The distraction. While all eyes were on Alara, he slipped through the throng of bodies and pushed past the heavy curtain into the relic chamber. The air inside was cool and still, filled with an awe that stole his breath. Carved shelves held strange, beautiful objects. Geodes that glittered like captured stars, intricate fossils, and the smooth, dark tears of the sky gods. His eyes scanned the shelves frantically. There, sitting on a ceremonial pedestal, was his mother's stone. He snatched it, its unnatural cold a shock against his warm skin, shoved it into his bag, and turned to leave. He almost made it out unnoticed. Rorik, where are you off to? Maddox's voice stopped him dead. He turned, his heart hammering against his ribs. He forced himself to look concerned. Your Grace, he said, his voice surprisingly steady. Seeing Elara faint, it made me worry for my mother. I am going to check on her. Father is still here, but she is all alone. Maddox's stern face softened. What a thoughtful and caring son you are. Go. May the Sky People be with you. She is in our prayers. Granted a full pardon, Rorik didn't walk. He fled. He found his mother waiting, pacing anxiously by the stables. Did it work? She asked, rushing to him. Did you get it? Yes, mother. Here. He opened the bag. Lyra reached in and pulled out the stone. The moment her fingers closed around it, a visible sigh of relief escaped her body. She cradled it in both hands, her expression one of profound reunion, as if greeting a long lost part of her own soul. Rorik looked nervously back toward the village. Let's go, mother, he urged, his voice a tense whisper. We don't have much time to make it to the mound and back. The journey to the mound. At the riverbank, Rorik hesitated, the water a dark, swirling ribbon between the known world and the taboo. Mother, are you sure about this? He asked, his voice a trembling whisper. We are about to cross over. This is the point of no return, my son, Lyra said, her voice firm, leaving no room for doubt. She held up the duffel bag. We have come this far. Let's find out what the stone has been trying to tell me. She didn't wait for a reply, instead guiding him to a spot downstream where a fallen tree offered a screen of tangled branches. The shock of the cold water stole their breath, the current pulling at their legs. They swam, their movements urgent and silent, until they scrambled onto the opposite bank, gasping and shivering. See? Lyra said, offering a reassuring smile. We are safe. Rorik gave her a sarcastic glance as he squeezed the water out of his tunic. Sure, it's simple. All we need to do is traverse the woods inhabited by spirits, then navigate through the Badlands, which is the Forbidden Zone. No big deal. Then let's go prove the spirits are real, Lyra countered, her eyes glistening with defiance. An adventurer goes where no one has gone before, remember? She led the way out into the tall, whispering grasses of a savanna dotted with ancient, gnarled trees. Rorik, falling back on his hunter's instincts, took the lead, his eyes scanning for tracks, his ears listening for any unnatural sound. The elders say this place is haunted to keep us away, Lyra said softly as they moved from one grove of trees to the next. Madik uses fear to make us obey. He strips us of our individuality and tells us it is for the good of the tribe. When good things happen, these sky people are pleased. When a child dies of fever, the sky people are angry. Where are they, Rorik? Why do they hide behind a curtain of ritual? There must be a better explanation. We are going to find it. Rorik said nothing, but his steps were more confident now. This was no longer just his mother's quest. It was his, too. As they journeyed on, the landscape changed, the earth growing rocky and barren. They entered a maze of steep, eroded canyons where the wind howled a mournful song. See? Lyra said, a wry smile on her face. No spirits yet. Perhaps they are letting us pass, Rorik muttered, though the fear in his voice was gone, replaced by awe. He pointed to the canyon wall. Strange, smooth cuts marred the rock face, perfectly straight lines and right angles, as if a giant had sliced through the stone with a hot knife. What tool could do that? He wondered aloud. The kind of tool they don't want us to find, Lyra replied. The passage grew narrower until it closed off completely, forcing them to climb. The ascent was treacherous. Halfway up, the duffel bag carrying the precious stone slipped from Lyra's shoulder, snagging on a jagged outcrop just out of reach. Let me, mother, Rorik said, already scrambling down toward it. The moment was tense, his fingers straining for the strap as loose rocks skittered into the darkness below. With a final desperate lunge, he gripped it, and together they hauled it back to safety. Upon finally reaching the summit of the rock formation, they beheld an astonishing sight. Off in the distance, nestled within a vast basin of golden sand, lay the mound. Yet It was no ordinary hill of earth, even from their vantage point. Something about it seemed unsettlingly off. It glimmered with an eerie, otherworldly glow, casting an unnatural luminescence that shimmered against the backdrop of the surrounding desert. They scrambled down into the sandy canyon. As they drew closer, the truth revealed itself. The shine came from a vast metallic surface, a seamless curve of non reflective black emerging from the sand. Its lines were too perfect, its shape too deliberate to be a work of nature. It was a piece of the fallen star. It was the ship. As they approached, the stone in Lyra's bag began to vibrate, a low beat that she could feel in her bones. She walked forward as if in a trance and placed her palm flat against the ship's hull. "It's cold," she whispered in disbelief. She reached into the bag and pulled out the stone. As soon as it was exposed to the open air, it began to glow, cycling through a mesmerizing rainbow of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The humming from the ship intensified, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to come from the center of the earth. The stone in her hand quivered intensely, a seemingly sentient entity yearning for connection. Lyra, drawn by an inexplicable compulsion she couldn't comprehend, hesitated before pressing the luminous stone against the cold, black hull of the ship. As soon as they met, light and sound exploded around them. The once gentle hum turned into an overwhelming roar. The stone burst forth with a blinding white light. Conflicted between fear and trust, Lyra's eyes rolled back in her head and her body went limp. Rorik caught her, his heart gripped by both terror and an inexplicable sense of awe. He gently lowered his mother to the sand as the strange, powerful hum of the ancient vessel surrounded them, leaving him torn between fear and wonder. All right, guys, 6 chapters in, and that's actually where we're going to call it for the evening. This is a shorter book, and so I want to give you guys some opportunity to be able to listen over a couple of weeks. And, well, I know, 2.5, 3 hours of reading is too long for most people, so I'm shortening down these streams a little bit. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Remember, stop out to youtube.com/@SirArminius later tonight if you missed any. Other than that, I will be back again. Well, not Thursday. It's Thanksgiving on Thursday. So I'll be back Saturday with more reading of the Sentinel Project. Have a great evening, everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Good night.